Hello. So let's start our series with the tools creating by C++. So firstly, we'll do some small introduce how to work with that, how to move around the engine. So at the first glance, in my opinion, it's worth to mention we can modify the source code. It's maybe not always recommended, but for some steps of the code, I think it's a good possibility to read the code and maybe be a bit more familiar how it's worked. So to start with that, you need to create the account. GitHub Unreal Engine, here is the step-by-steps how to proceed to download the source code of the Unreal Engine. When you create and you done all the process, you will have access to the GitHub where you can download the engine. After you download the engine, you should have a zip file. When you unzip them, you have the UF5 SLN. When you open it with the Visual Studio, you should have a Visual Studio environment. Here, in my opinion, I think this is a good point to start to set. Development editor, Win64, and here for the startup process, I will recommend it also press right mouse button and press set as startup project. Okay, so in this example, I would like to slightly modify some just a flag. Because in my opinion, sometimes for a lightning artist, it's like maybe it's not needed to always, let's choose point light. Grab the point light, and here when you preview the maybe that will be interesting. Let's jump to light complexity. Okay, when you press 3 for light. Okay, here is like some light complexity. But when you are not casting shadows, it's not affected here. Okay, so maybe in the preview it wasn't changed. Okay, but what I have in mind here, I want to, after you added to the word the point light actor, you have always CastShadow turned on. So I would like to modify the code to, by default, disable the CastShadow. So how to do that? Here is how to proceed with that. It's point light component, point light cast shadows. Okay, so we back. Okay, we back to our source code and let's write point light. And we have something like point light gizmo, point light component, point light components at C++. Okay, let's find CastShadow. CastShadow. Point light. Okay, so this is pretty simple. We have by default true. Let's modify that and change to false. Bam. I also like to add some comments, so like Adam K. For me to just fastly find what I modify in my private project. Okay. So I modified the cast shadows by default will be false. So right now I need to recompile the project, the source code. So sorry, let's rebuild that, and I will back to you later because that will take a while. So after we compile the source file, we can test it out. So let's run the engine. Good to know as well. You can change here the Unreal Engine version, and as well you can change the source file where you can use your source file of the engine. I mean by costume. Okay, so let's check how it's worked. If that point light by default has CastShadow turned off, so the flag will be set as false. Okay, so our default point light the flag is turned off as we define in point light component, CastShadow false. Thank you for that part of the tutorial.